Caitlin Clark's rise as a commercial force did not happen because of one hot season, one viral clip, or one lucky endorsement. It happened because every major brand that matters looked at the same thing and came to the same conclusion. She moves products. She creates attention. She brings in audiences that go far beyond women's basketball. And now the latest example has made that even harder to deny. Her Gatorade partnership, reportedly worth around $50 million, did not just create headlines, it created the kind of reaction brands dream about and competitors notice immediately. The most talked about part of the launch was the release of Rainberry, the Gatorade flavor built around Clark's personal brand. From the second it went live, the demand exploded. Fans rushed to get it. Screenshots of error messages started circulating almost instantly, and the product moved so quickly that the launch felt less like a normal endorsement rollout and more like a national event. That matters because Gatorade is not some small company experimenting with a trend. This is one of the most established sports brands in the world. They have partnered with legends across multiple generations, and yet this launch still managed to create chaos online. What makes the deal even more significant is that Gatorade did not take the easy route. They did not just place Clark in a few commercials, give her a campaign image, and call it a day. They tied a specific product directly to her identity. The name, the look, the packaging, the overall presentation, it was all built to feel like Caitlin Clark. That is a much deeper commitment than simple co-branding. A signature flavor is a real bet. It has to live on shelves. It has to sell in real stores. It has to keep moving once the initial excitement fades. Brands do not make that kind of move unless they are convinced the athlete can carry long-term commercial value. And that is the part people should really focus on. The website crashing got the attention, but the size and structure of the deal tell the bigger story. A partnership worth that much is not about one launch day. It's about what a company believes an athlete can become over the next several years. Gatorade clearly looked at Clark and decided her ceiling was far higher than the average star athlete. They were not buying a moment, they were investing in a machine. By now, that is becoming the pattern with Clark. The Gatorade deal is huge on its own, but it's really just the newest chapter in a broader commercial run that keeps getting more impressive. Her Nike contract is already considered the biggest footwear endorsement deal ever given to a WNBA player. Wilson gave her a signature line, something that almost never happens. State Farm signed her as the first female athlete in the company's history. Now Gatorade has gone all in with a custom flavor and a massive package behind it. Any one of those moves would be major news. Put them all together, and it starts to look like something far bigger than normal athlete endorsement success. The Wilson deal in particular says a lot about how corporations view Clark. Wilson does not casually hand out signature lines. That's not their style. In fact, the name most people immediately connect with Wilson's signature status is Michael Jordan. That's why Clark getting her own line stood out so much. It wasn't about comparing her basketball career to Jordan's. It was about recognizing how rare it is for a company that established to attach an ongoing product identity to one athlete. That means manufacturing, marketing, distribution, and long-term commitment. It's not a temporary celebration, it's a decision to make that athlete part of the company's ongoing business. State Farm tells a similar story. This is another giant brand with years of consumer data, years of sports marketing experience, and years of seeing which athletes convert attention into action. They had worked with men across major sports for a long time, but had never signed a female athlete before Clark. That wasn't random. It was a calculated business move made by a company that understands audience behavior better than most. State Farm did not sign Clark because she was trending. They signed her because they believed she could reach people in a way other athletes were not reaching them. Then there's Nike, which may still be the most important piece of the whole picture. Reports have placed her Nike deal at around $28 million over 8 years, and the spotlight is only going to get brighter once her signature shoe finally arrives. That shoe hasn't even launched yet, and it's already one of the most anticipated products in women's sports. That's what happens when a brand like Nike sees an athlete as more than a player. They start building an empire around her. That's how signature shoes work when the company believes the consumer appetite is real. And with Clark, every sign suggests Nike believes the appetite is massive. The common thread in all of this is not just basketball talent, it's crossover value. Clark does not only resonate with core WNBA fans, she reaches casual fans, younger audiences, new buyers, and people who may not even follow the sport closely. That's the kind of thing brands obsess over, because it's the difference between popularity and commercial power. It's one thing for an athlete to be visible, it's another for that visibility to translate into sales, product urgency, retail movement, and brand expansion. Clark keeps proving she can do that at the highest level. That's a big reason why business outlets started taking her seriously in a way that goes far beyond sports media. When Forbes ranked Caitlin Clark among the most powerful women in sports and placed her at the top among active female athletes, that wasn't just praise, that was a market judgment. Forbes looks at endorsement value, audience reach, business impact, and how much influence actually converts in the real world. In Clark's case, the numbers were impossible to ignore. Her off-court earnings alone were reportedly over $11 million in her first-year WNBA season, a number that completely changed the conversation around what a first-year WNBA star could be worth. That ranking mattered because it separated noise from measurable value. Social media follows are one thing, headlines are another, but when outlets like Forbes start attaching real status to an athlete's commercial presence, it means the evidence has become hard to dismiss. Clark was not just popular, she was productive for brands. She was lifting visibility, she was driving merchandise, she was changing the scale of attention around the league. That's why the corporate world moved so aggressively in her direction. At the same time, the contrast with Angel Reese has become part of the conversation whether people like it or not. Reese has absolutely had visibility. She's had coverage, brand attention, and strong public recognition. But visibility and conversion are not the same thing, and that gap appears to be where the commercial difference between her and Clark has widened. According to the narrative in the material you provided, Reese's Reebok shoe is not generated the type of demand her camp may have hoped for. Instead of feeling like a breakout moment, the rollout has looked increasingly quiet, especially when compared with the growing hype around Clark's next major product release. That contrast becomes even sharper when you place the two brand trajectories side by side. Clark's Gatorade launch creates a frenzy. Her Nike shoe has anticipation before release. Her Wilson line carries rare historical weight. Her State Farm deal breaks company precedent. Now Gatorade has gone all in with a custom flavor and a massive package behind it. Any one of those moves would be major news. Put them all together, and it starts to look like something far bigger than normal athlete endorsement success.
The larger issue here is brand confidence. When a company fully believes in an athlete's long-term upside, it leans in, it invests more, it expands the campaign, it keeps building. When a company starts to hesitate, that slowdown becomes visible too. Fewer promotions, less noise, less urgency, softer messaging. That is why the silence around a product can say as much as the launch itself. It suggests the internal evaluation may have changed. Another theme running through this entire situation is perception. Brands are not only buying talent, they are buying association. They care how an athlete is seen, what the public connects them to, and whether that image adds value or creates friction. In Clark's case, the perception has become increasingly easy for companies to work with. She looks like growth, momentum, professionalism, and broad appeal. In Reese's case, the material you shared frames the concern around perceived antagonism and reactive public positioning, especially when it comes to Clark. Whether every observer agrees with that interpretation or not, the point inside the script is that brands notice these things and factor them into long-term decisions. That is what makes this more than a simple endorsement story. It's about how the market rewards athletes differently based on not only performance, but also audience trust, emotional response, and consistency of image. Clark's commercial profile keeps growing because the companies backing her appear to see stability and expansion at the same time. She wins attention without needing controversy to do it. She sells without needing a forced rivalry to carry the product, and that, from a brand perspective, is gold. What is happening around Clark right now is really the result of compounding value. She has the game, she has the visibility, she has the fan energy, she has the mainstream appeal, and every time one of those things produces a measurable business result, the next brand steps in with more confidence than the last one. That is why it no longer looks like a few lucky sponsorships. It looks like an entire commercial ecosystem forming around one athlete. And once that starts happening, the gap becomes hard to close. Because now Clark is not just competing with other players on the court, she is operating in a different lane off the court too. The brands have voted, the rankings have reflected it, the product launches have confirmed it, the money behind the deals has underlined it. She is not being treated like a promising athlete anymore. She is being treated like a long-term business engine. That is the real takeaway from all of this. The Gatorade deal is not the whole story. It's the newest proof point in a much larger pattern. Clark's rise as a commercial powerhouse has been building step by step, and now it has reached a stage where the evidence is almost impossible to deny. The massive Nike deal, the Wilson signature line, the State Farm breakthrough, the Forbes recognition, the reported Gatorade package, and the response to Rainberry all point in the same direction. Caitlin Clark is no longer just one of the most talked about players in women's basketball. She is becoming one of the most valuable athletes in the entire sports marketplace. And when that kind of momentum meets real consumer demand, the result is exactly what we are seeing now. Brands get bolder, products get bigger, the headlines get louder, and the athletes on the other side of the comparison start feeling further away with every new announcement.